What's up, Patrick? There it is. Patrick Downs. I'm a puppeteer by night, but during the day, I'm a mid-market AE at a company called Sapling. I moved from a role at Pandadoc where I was their head of sales enablement, and then at some point, a sales manager. It all kind of blends together. So I have a background in like coaching people and also selling, and I'm looking to get into more enterprise sales because a lot of my background is in SMB. And just happy to help you today, Kieran.
Sweet.
Perfect.
John.
I'm Jon Stern. I'm one of the co-founders of Ringpin. We help people launch digital experiences from physical products and places. So you can kind of think of like bringing online shopping into retail. Kind of like Patrick, I have a wide experience in a lot of different kinds of sales and a lot of very early stage startups. So have worked on things from the very beginning, building scripts, and was really excited to see the invite list with Patrick and Adam and Francois here. I know all of them fairly well, and it's a solid crew. And since I didn't hear that we were going to be 40% Canadian, I just hope that we can talk about process as much as possible. So just bring it out, happy to help any way I can.
Oh man, we'll be talking about process. Don't worry, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam, tell us who you are, man.
I love a good Canadian process for sure. So Adam Pasch, I'm the director of alliances at Postal. We're an offline marketing automation platform, really bringing B2B gifting and direct mail automated into the tech stack, making life super easy in terms of, surprising and delighting clients. But my background really comes from most recently in management consulting, leading teams, but the business development end of it was RFP driven enterprise sales. And then, of course, in building out an alliance program with tech integrators as well as agencies, there's a lot of selling that goes on there. So happy to help from a few different perspectives.
Sweet. Thanks, Adam. All right, Kieran, we're here to help, man. Think of this as having 4 coaches and, just throw whatever you want at us and we'll see how we can help you out today.
Well, Francois, do you get it? Do you get an intro first?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm the other Canadian on the other side. I don't know why there's always a process joke. I've been helping out with 5 on Friday with Patrick for like over a year. I do by day, I'm more like upper mid market sales for a Microsoft partner called Encore. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And then, I've met John and Adam through Thursday night sales. So that's a common denominator here. And yeah, just love helping folks out like this. So thanks for the prompt, John and Kieran. Let's get rolling, man.
Yeah, awesome to be on here with you guys. I appreciate. I'm looking forward to all the feedback as well. My name's Kieran. I manage the business development team at Knockri. Like I said, it's a smaller team, about 25 of us total in the company. A couple customers that we're working with, and what we do at Knockri is we're an on-demand behavioral assessment that helps predict job performance for new candidates that would score and shortlist them to provide the best talent moving forward in an equitable process, helping solve challenges around unconscious bias, candidate experience, and particularly saving time for the recruiters as well. So we do a lot of great things from a diversity aspect. And yeah, I'd love to kind of get a sense and share, some of the work that we're doing today, our outreach and our script, and hoping to be able to obviously continue to generate more and more leads with some of the feedback and be able to really capture and engage more of the audience. I think it's a super relevant topic today. And I think, being able to articulate it in an efficient and a very powerful way is really going to generate a lot of interest. So I know that's our job on the phone, but I'm happy to kind of share what I have and see what we can do.
So maybe give us a little bit of context. Like right now, are you spending like a half your day doing like outbound through email and calling? Like what's a day in the life? And then maybe who are those ideal customers that you're trying to reach? Yeah,
so we are right now only targeting enterprise businesses. Mm-hmm. So just based on how Knockri works is the more and more applicants a company will receive, the better, just in terms of economies of scale of how our solution works. And we're primarily, so we work with IBM, Shopify, the Department of National Defense in Canada, and I think one more, Novartis. So our account list is smaller, but we're actually generating a lot of leads and hopefully closing them in the next 12 months through our VP of sales. But our job is to obviously generate new leads. And I would say our day-to-day is looking like we're using LinkedIn we use SalesLoft to build cadences. So we're using emails. Primarily cold calling is I'm a big believer in, and that's really how you still get the best results. So we're spending a lot of times on the phone, and then also you trying to do some more social selling on LinkedIn. So connecting with a bunch of leaders at different companies and hopefully sharing some insights and connecting with them through there.
And so who's like, if Adam was a target customer, who would that be? Like someone in HR, someone in recruiting?
Yeah. So it would be our wheelhouse is talent acquisition. I would say maybe that's probably tier 1. Tier 2 would be diversity and inclusion officers or diversity. And then I would say another good opportunity is, HR technology leaders.
Okay. And
Mhm.
are you finding they're receptive to that initial conversation? Like how I'm not going to like bug you for like ratio of like calls made and meetings booked, but like, are you finding they're pretty receptive to having the next conversation if you can get them on the phone? Like, what's tougher, getting them on the phone or getting that first meeting?
I would say getting them on the phone is
Okay.
That's probably a big challenge. So we have some tools in place that we've used, data mining and, Lucia, for example, is what we use. But I would say, I think the one thing that maybe we could work on is definitely creating like that shock factor and that impact of, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing a lot of great things. I feel like we kind of get blended in with a lot of everyone has priorities, right? Oh, I can't look at this. I'm too busy. This isn't important. But if you were to say, is diversity important, to your hiring process, everyone would say yes, right? Everyone would say, yes, we always want to have, efficiencies and, making things better, but we kind of get drowned out by, circle back with me this time. You're not interested. I would say that's probably the biggest.
The old circle back.
Yeah. The classic. If I had $1 for every time.
Circle back with me, never. So I'm wondering, and like, this is all around the comfort level you have, but if you want to share either on screen an email or a cold call script, or even, and again, this is all in your comfort level. I'm sure any of us here are down for it. Like, and I know Patrick thrives on this stuff, like a role play where it's like, okay, Patrick is the diversity officer at, I don't know, Dick's Sporting Good, and and he's picked up.
I was ready to do that.
Perfect. And Adam looks game, and Jon looks game. I think John's more like CEO of Bass Pro Sports, maybe. Adam's like craft coffee roaster somewhere in North America. And but yeah, so Patrick, you'll be, what do you think? Like, Kieran, would you say, is it a chief diversity officer that you're typically able to get through, or is it somebody more in an HR role?
Yeah, we kind of, when we look at a company, we try and kind of basket like 5 to 7 best people, like VP of talent acquisition, director. Then we look at the diversity leaders, chief diversity officer, people like that. And then depending on the company, if we do a lot of research on their LinkedIn, like looking at their titles, size of target company. So we're like targeting like the Fortune 1000 companies. That's kind of our current list right now.
Okay. All right, Patrick, man, you're going to be Patrick, let's call you the chief or VP of HR or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Perfect.
And so, Kieran, just for context, have you emailed Patrick, or has he received some social stuff through LinkedIn, or are you keeping him on Snapchat or anything?
Our cadence is usually kind of built to connected on LinkedIn. If they're the right title, we try and email them, and then we usually send an introductory email. And then we kind of jump into the first call,
or maybe even a physical gift through postal. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick, you ready?
I'm ready. I'll start it. This is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, this is Kieran from Knockri. How you been?
Hey, Kieran, I'm okay. What's this call about?
Yeah, Patrick, I know it's not a scheduled call. I was actually on LinkedIn doing a little bit of research. I thought you'd be the best person to be speaking to over at ABC about diversity and recruitment efforts.
Yes, that would be me.
Yeah, great. So, Patrick, why I'm calling is we're helping the talent acquisition teams at IBM, Shopify, and Novartis solve challenges around unconscious bias, candidate experience, and ultimately to provide a more efficient recruitment process using our purpose-built automated hiring platform. We've had a lot of success expanding and working with their different divisions to help scale their diversity initiatives. And I was hoping to see if you were open to scheduling some time to learn more about Knockri and see if we can help your team out.
Yeah, we're mostly doing this through like an external DNI recruiter right now. So
Okay.
it's been going pretty well, and I think I'm happy with it.
Yeah. So are you guys working on diversity through the hiring process? I know it's a big topic. So how are you guys approaching it? And is it part of your digital strategy today?
It is. We've worked on like the language around our job postings, and we're actively seeking out more diverse candidates to our recruiters.
Yeah. Okay. So where, Patrick, where Knockri would be able to help your team and align with those goals is, we believe that diversity starts at the top of the hiring process. And if, depending on how many positions you have open, we're able to work with you to create custom behavioral assessments that would predict job performance. And we can do this really better than anyone else. And because of that, that's why we're working with some of the companies like IBM and Shopify. We've had a lot of experience working, across different divisions, and I'm hoping to see if you were open to scheduling some time and really sharing how Knockri would work.
Yeah, I've never heard of you guys. I mean, if you could send me maybe an email over that I could take a look at, and then I could talk to my team and see if maybe someone in my HR specialist field could reach out and talk to you. But I
Yeah.
think an email would
Okay.
be a good place to start.
Okay, sure. Yeah. What's your email? Kind of get some information.
It's blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
So-
I would send it over. Yeah.
All right, so let's do a little pause or time out there and go with some feedback from. Well, let's start with Patrick and then go to Jon and Adam.
Yeah.
So your tone is unbelievably good. Like I feel so warm and fuzzy after that, which is good because I just started selling to HR as a persona, and you have to have that sort of tone to get through to them at all. So I felt like open to having a conversation with you and like sharing the truth with you.
Mhm.
The biggest piece of feedback I can give you is I couldn't even hold all the information you gave me in my head to even like give you feedback on how to change it. I felt like I couldn't take in what you just told me. Like by the end of the conversation, I didn't really even know what you did. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, there's like 3 challenges you shared, and then you shared how you fixed them, and then you talked about like what your customers are doing, and it was all within like a paragraph, and it wasn't
Yeah.
broken up. So I felt confused by the end of
Okay.
it. That's the biggest thing I could tell you is like maybe focus on one thing and then get their feedback after you say it, so you can like help them actually process what you're saying since they've never heard about your company before.
So maybe
Gotcha.
before we go to Jon, would you say, Patrick, like if I say, hey, Patrick, here's 3 problems we solve, which one of these right now is like the biggest challenge? And if they said problem 3, then you drill into 3.
Exactly. How are you doing that right now? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? That kind of thing.
Cool. Okay, Jon.
A couple things. First, you said you start the process with InMail. Are those effective for you? Because I've literally in like 12 years of LinkedIn, I've gotten maybe one good InMail.
No,
I didn't know if anyone-
not really. Not
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So then you go to the phones after the InMail or LinkedIn attempt?
Yeah, so we have like kind of an automated like email that, somewhat personalized, just to be like, hey, first name, I saw on LinkedIn that you're doing this, would love to kind of connect with you and share some of the work that we're doing with other teams. Are you open to connect, next week, more or less? Yeah.
So, okay, so then like you are attempting to reach them online first and then a call. So they may have heard your name through like the email or anything. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. My biggest thing about the call was I heard a lot of we in it instead of a lot of like about the customer. And you said kind of like, we're the best because of this and that type of stuff. I thought maybe you should have tried to latch on to something where Patrick was working that isn't going so well, kind of like what he said, aligned to the 3 things that you help with most. and you have really big company names like IBM, Shopify, something like that. To me, what would be the most impactful right there is if you tell a story about how you solved the problem for Shopify or something like that. Oh yeah, like Shopify told us the same thing, that they have, an external recruiter, but when we dug deep with them, we found out it wasn't going fast enough, or the percentages weren't high enough, or whatever it might be, and take the problem that you've solved with another customer and try and relate that to the person that you're talking to. I mean, I know that's really hard to do in a initial quick cold call, but if you can get any temperature on like who you think that you've helped that is most similar situation to that person, a customer story can be really impactful there. Instead of just saying, hey, we're the best, you can say Shopify picked us because of this. People will really relate to that.
No, I like that. That's a great point to say, like, Shopify told us the same thing about, they're using an external vendor. Okay, great. Yeah. This is how to help them. Yeah.
Adam.
So a couple thoughts in addition to what these guys said, just to reiterate the tone piece. I just want to like bring that positive piece back up again. That's a really hard thing to fix, but you don't have to fix it, right? I think so, lean into that. I felt like you guys were friends right off the bat, which is great. The piece about the we, I think it was like 15, 20 seconds before you said anything about him. And so I think what I kept thinking about was how you could make this relevant to his challenges up front. Just a question for you. When you are in the like diversity inclusion stuff and other HR stuff that you support, does any of it go towards expanding talent pools and speeding the time to hire?
Yeah, so we have even some like white papers on improving on those metrics, like time to fill and cost to fill. So we do have actually some metrics that we could like share, improving those efficiencies. And sorry, what was the first one? Expanding the diversity?
The pool of applicants. If like one of your value props is, hey, company, you're getting 7 applicants per rec, but what we're seeing, our industry average, people are seeing 7 applications per rec. But we know that to get 25 means you're going to get great candidates, blah, blah, blah. Our clients tend to have, this better than industry standard benchmark applicants coming in, plus it's a diverse pool. Right. Again, I'm making all of that up, but I'm venturing that's true.
Yeah, no, Knockri doesn't increase the number of applicants. It just helps score and assess their predicted job performance in an equitable way. So we use like behavioral assessments, not so that would be for, if IBM has an open rec for a position, they get like 100 people that would apply. Instead of having like a screen or like a screener or recruiter, like basically vetting the resumes and things like that, there's Knockri would engage with them, ask them a series of behavioral questions. Yeah, that would. And then what makes
that's the story right there that I was talking about. IBM did this, and it was much more clear how Knockri helped when you said how you help IBM right there.
Okay.
And so this is perfect because so yeah, build off of what Jon's saying there, and then where I'm going to take this is personalization using the smart tags. I don't count that as personalization anymore, right? But you can get really great personalization from them because you can go to their career site and see how many open recs they have. That like it's hard for some people to personalize, but right there to that HR person, you can know today exactly how many unfilled positions they have. Yeah, you can probably see pretty quickly how long those jobs have been open. If you do a LinkedIn search for their company, open positions, I think that data is going to be available on a quick search of how many like greater than 30-day positions are there. So that's where you could open the call with, hi, this is blah. I noticed that you have X number of open positions. Would it hurt if we, had this scoring, blah, 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 would it help? Yada, yada. So like instantly you're hitting him on a problem he has, and you're asking a question to qualify him all in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Kieran, like, do you have, and I don't think there's a right answer here because it depends on like how many people you're calling a day. But I think like Patrick, when we've talked about this before, like you're a fan of having a script because, you got to obviously like ad lib a little bit, but you want some framework. But I think what I'm also hearing from Jon and Adam and Patrick is like, it's not just personalization, like obviously some basic things, but like where Jon was going is like kind of bringing them into a story and making them the heroes. So we did this for IBM. Do you think like this is something we could help you solve? And kind of like putting them in that storyline where they're like, yeah, actually you could. And I'm probably oversimplifying that. But I guess back to my question, Kieran, like when you're calling on companies, do you have like 30 you got to call and you just kind of want to see if you can get that meeting? Or are you going and saying, okay, I'm calling Jon. He worked at ABC company. Now he's at XYZ. They got 30 postings. Now I got to call Adam. And I'm not being like facetious because I know that takes work, right? Like just grinding through the 30 calls and calling them is easier than prepping for 30 calls and doing 15 minutes of research on each. So like, where are you kind of, where's the balance you've got there?
Yeah, I would say like what we would do is, so I mean, before I call them, I'll pull up their LinkedIn profile and just try and see their background. Like if they have, if it says, always improving processes in HR, I try and poke and prod and try and use that in my talk track. But in terms of that, yeah, that's really about the kind of the how deep we would go. We probably, try and make between 80 to 100 calls a day. And then, with that being said, probably like 30, 40 companies in the cadence at one point.
So being able to hyper personalize them, or it's tough. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I feel like in the enterprise space, maybe realizing it now, maybe taking a step of more personalization. Like I really like that idea of being like, hey, we have seen me this many recs. Like they probably get a bunch of these emails and stuff all day, every day, and to really be able to like, oh, this is relevant in the first 2 seconds to me, right? Like as opposed to introducing myself. So that was good. I think that's something that would definitely, right? Because I feel like that's like the most common objection is, I'm just not interested. We have stuff in place, follow up with me later. And that doesn't really like, grab their attention.
And would you say there, sorry, Adam, I was going to say, is there three kind of, I don't want to say obvious, but is there three problems you can kind of say that you, like you mentioned to Patrick, that pretty much you can solve for everyone?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, I mean, as long as they have like a bunch of open recs, like, unconscious bias is common in recruiting all the time. And there are ways, to hide, like to train for that. But what makes Knockri unique is we use AI that is built without having like human intervention because there's no unconscious bias baked into it. It's pretty cool. I don't really know the too much of the technology behind it, but that's what kind of differentiates us from other tools. So when it's being scored, we can say like we eliminate adverse impact and reduce unconscious bias.
Sorry, Adam, you were going to jump in there.
Yeah. I already forgot what that thing was, but this latest conversation, you were talking about unconscious bias. A thought on how to scale this is, you had mentioned that you're targeting Fortune 1000 companies.
Yeah.
And so my guess is that you've got a little bit of an ABM motion here. You probably have a few different keywords like unconscious bias. A lot of these larger companies are putting out articles, or they have posts on their site about how they do these things. They have these initiatives. I wonder if you were to set up a Google alert with your key phrases, unconscious bias, smart, and IBM or Dell or whoever, right? And so that way you're getting a notification when there's an article that's been published, or that they have some new blog on their site that's talking to the pain point that you're already addressing. And now that'll be your trigger to follow up with them on something that's hyper relevant to them specifically, and that's the reason why you had to pick up the phone and call them today.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. Yeah. It's super, super like time sensitive. I like that. Right. Because otherwise getting through everybody's profile and finding something, but I want to pick on Patrick because I know he loves being on the spot and he likes doing like the reverse. Because I think what would be fun for Kieran is hearing, Patrick's already selling into HR. He knows kind of the 3 value props you're already presenting. And so, maybe if you can listen in to him cold calling me or Adam or John and getting his kind of spin on it. I don't know if you're down, Patrick. But just based on what you've heard today.
I'll do Panda Doc. I'm not cold calling at the new job.
Okay. But
I'm down to do the last
but just to give Kieran another like frame of reference of like, because that either that thread that you've always pulled out, which has been great, kind of like trying to drill into that problem. So I don't know who wants to be, let's pick on Adam. Adam looks like he's game. Adam, so are we doing, what are you selling, Patrick?
I'm going to sell Panda Doc. And before we get into that, I actually have
Yeah.
another point about the personalization.
Yeah.
I'm helping the SDRs with this right now. We're doing the 5x5 thing, which I'm sure you guys have heard of, where it's like spend 5 minutes on 5 points of personalization. And then you pick like 5 things that you're going to want to put into an email. And then you can reuse that in your call. You just read the email and go, here's the stuff I picked out for the email. So for me, I do job posting, what tools and responsibilities are listed there for whatever role that you're targeting. And then LinkedIn recommendations. What do people find important about their work? So you could potentially link it back into your value prop. Any LinkedIn posts that can relate to any problems or initiatives, company and department growth that you can find via Sales Nav, and then any news about the company. And then you could usually find all of that in 5 minutes if you're really good at like knowing where to look. And then you would put any of that can relate and tie back into your value prop.
Yeah,
then again, like I said, you could just reuse it.
I liked Adam's idea about the notifications. That's a really good way to let Google do the work for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Most of this you just find on LinkedIn too.
Yeah. And so, I think what we found, Kieran, sometimes when we do these is just you seeing or hearing someone else do it, you can just get another perspective and we can maybe, take some elements of that. So Adam is, Patrick, what's Adam's role? Who are you trying to sell to today?
I'll do a sales director.
Oh yeah. He's sales director. All right, Adam, you ready?
You started off.
What kind of firm am I working at?
Sales director at a SaaS company.
Do it.
Okay. You started off, Adam. You pick up the phone.
Hello.
Hey, Adam, just wanted to be completely upfront with you and just tell you that this is a sales call. Do you mind if I explain why I'm calling? If it doesn't make sense to talk, you can just hang up on me.
I think I can manage that.
Okay, cool. I'll run the timer on my end. So just to get right to it, the reason I'm calling is we typically get invited into sales directors that have problems with their reps spending too much time on proposals, or it's not that they just don't know what's going on with the sales cycle and they're not sure where documents are within that life cycle. Or it's not that, it's really the forecast, the needle's off, they're under or over reporting on it. Out of those though, do you feel like any of that's relevant or am I just completely off the mark?
Oh man. I mean, we get where my proposals are in the stage, constant nightmare.
Gotcha. And how are you handling that right now?
Right, we've got an Excel spreadsheet that I'm looking at, that I'm pulling out of my CRM.
Gotcha. And could you give me an example, maybe like a recent deal, if it's not too painful, that you had this problem with?
So yeah, what my guys do, that when my sales rep gets a proposal started, they seed it with a few pieces, but it's got to go to a deal desk. And it's hard to keep the guys prioritized. It's the deal desk is one person, and I've got a lot more sales reps, so we've got a little bit of a bottleneck.
Has the deal desk always been there, or is that a more recent thing?
No, it's definitely a little bit more recent thing, but reps were out there kind of just freewheeling, doing their own thing. We can make it up on volumes, sell it at a loss, make it up on volume. Common play. Sales wants to give it all away for free.
Yeah, I get that, man. I want to give it away for free, honestly. So something we've heard though is that the reason people set up the deal desk is exactly what you just said. They don't want the reps just like giving out any discount and having no approval process. If you had a process in place to automate the approvals, would you need the deal desk or could you go more free?
Well, we've got a complex product and depending on some of the factors, we may want to take the prerogative of doing some specialized discounting. We're in that like experiment phase of really starting to scale. And so we do want to test a few different things. I just don't want it to go completely off the rails.
I got you. Yeah, that's the last thing we want. And there's some conditions we can set up with our system. And I'm calling from Panadoc, by the way. I didn't talk about it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. 3 minutes in, we're talking about that. I'm not really sure if we can 100% fix this for you since I don't really know everything about you yet, but I've called up people like Zapier that have said the same things to me, that they've set up a deal desk to try to get rid of one problem and it's causing another. But let's pretend that I could fix this problem for you. And once you saw how we operate and fixed it for Zapier, you believed that we could too. Is there any reason you would invite me in for like 45 minutes to talk about it? And then if there was nothing there, you could just tell me to kick rocks and never hear from me again.
Oh man, yeah. I'm always hesitant in kind of complicating the tech stack. We don't really have anybody doing RevOps right now. It's one of my sales reps with a technical background that jumps into it, and so I'm always worried about I create one fix and I'm going to end up with 17 other issues. So we might be able to talk in maybe a few weeks, maybe at the beginning of next quarter as I kind of get the current stuff under control.
Yeah, and I was in sales leadership for a long time, and the last thing I wanted to do is introduce any complexity, especially if I didn't have any people in ops to help me with it. Zapier was kind of in the same boat when we talked to them. They had told us that they didn't have anyone to set it up, but we have a full implementation team. And I don't really even want to get ahead of ourselves. We might not even be a good fit. But just based on some of the stuff you've told me, the problem that you have around not knowing where your deals are, which could potentially be losing you revenue, could be something we could fix. Would it be worth even 30 minutes for us to see if that's even there? And then if by the end of it, it's not worth introducing something to your tech stack, tell me to go away.
Is there some kind of basic information you can shoot me over in an email?
Yeah, I could definitely do that. I have this email on file. Does that work?
Yeah, that's me.
All right, cool. So usually what we do is like reviewing this information as part of that initial call. So let's schedule about 30 minutes to go over the information in that email and also go into more depth with Zapier and what they did specifically because it relates most to you. I have some time at 9 on Monday. Would that work?
Yeah. We could do that. I might have one of the guys from my team join it if I can't make it. We put this person on there too. And hopefully one of us will be able to join.
Awesome. And we can end it there.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm trying to think back to the very beginning, which is where I think we really wanted to get draw a comparison to what you could use, Kieran, in terms of what I heard there was maybe trying to give 2 examples of 2 problems or 3 problems. Maybe even instead of the 3 that you hit Patrick with the first time, maybe talk about one that you think will be more relevant. Hey, Patrick, I saw in the news that, you guys are really focusing on hiring and diversity and inclusion. We helped IBM or Shopify solve their, unconscious bias issue via ABC. Do you think that'd be something you'd be interested in hearing more about? Kind of trying to lead them into that. Yeah. Versus I think what was really relevant was Patrick was kind of saying, and I think Jon said too, there was almost information overload out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And have you ever got that sense from some of the people you're talking to that they're kind of I don't know, they aren't articulating that it's information overload, but they're not there isn't something that they're grabbing onto right away?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I feel before it was even longer, that's even the shortened version. So, that was kind of working through that's even the more condensed version. And yeah, it really just kind of comes down to I know I'm interrupting their day. They're obviously not thinking about what I'm about to call them with. So I try to kind of paint 3 big things in their head, candidate experience, unconscious bias, and adverse impact. And then the third one is, efficiencies in around the hiring process and what we can help you with. Maybe take a step further. And what Patrick said, which was good, that kind of got me thinking now, was what of those, how can I pick which one of those is most relevant to you, like Mr. Prospect, when I call you? Like, how can I get you to answer like, oh yeah, like candidate experience, yeah, we're working on diversity? Is that like a question I should ask, or should I almost like kind of approach that like doing more research and knowing at the company, or both?
The biggest thing is that you went into what problems you solve, and then you immediately transfer over to how you solve it.
Yeah.
And it didn't really give me a second to really process the problems. And by
Yeah.
the time you got to the solutions, I forgot what the problems were. And I was like, okay, where am I? So I
Yeah.
would say maybe add like a step between those two where you ask them a question after you list
Yeah.
the problems.
Okay.
And I think I asked you this earlier, Kieran, but do you find like if you're able to get them to pick up, you're able to at least get them to like listen, like they don't hang up? Like do you feel like you need the Patrick buffer of this is a sales call, please don't hang up? I mean, you didn't say that, Patrick. You know what I'm saying, but
It does make people laugh.
No, I think it adds some humor. But how do you find, Kieran? Like, are they a bit
Yeah,
more open to that?
Like usually when I call them, and I mean, some of the reps that I've worked with, like they kind of like, they get shut off right away. I've been thankful enough that I don't really have that. Like normally I can get the time to talk. Like I'll come across and be like, hey, I'm just like I was doing research on LinkedIn. I'm hoping to get a quick, 25, 30 seconds of your time. And they're usually pretty receptible to that. So I do kind of get the time. It's really where I kind of lose them is that in between. And then I always get the, yeah, I know this has something to do with me. Send me more information.
And do you feel like the response rate or ability to get anything further after they're like, send me something is like super low?
Yeah. It's usually like, I'll follow up.
Yeah.
How many times can you follow up?
Yeah. But I think, back to Patrick's point and Jon too, around like, if there isn't like a specific problem that you have mentioned that you're able to help solve, and they articulate it back, like, yeah, that is like a major headache for us. And then it gets conversational, then they're just slowly fading into, how do I get rid of this guy?
Exactly. Yeah.
Politely.
Exactly. Right.
Because are you calling like cross-border? You're calling into North America all over?
We're right now, we're just targeting North America.
Okay. Interesting. And then how do you find like in your sequences, because you were mentioning Sales Loft, do you get reasonable response rate through email?
Like we get decent open rates, like right around like 22%, which I think is not bad, but usually it's not really successful in actually booking a meeting through the emailing.
And how often do you build out your sequence or cadence that says, hey, if they open, then I call, or do you call whether or not there's an open rate?
Yeah. So if they're opening it, we'll get the notification, like they become a hot lead, and we're targeting them a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
And then, if I pass information on and things like that, then obviously I'll be following up with them. So we try and keep track of the open rates and the click rates, and then following up accordingly.
I don't know what everybody else thinks here, but does everybody find that sometimes using that as like part of the opener to kind of tie it together? Like, hey, Patrick, I sent you this email. Sometimes saying I saw you opened it is maybe a bit creepy, but like, repeating the topic, like, I saw you were interested in toilet plungers. We got them on sale today. Not sure why that came to mind, but
toilet plungers, I love them. I actually need to get one. I just moved. Thanks for that, Frank. Yeah, referencing the email is good. I'll call out specific lines from the email if I saw they opened it.
Well, and part of me thinks it's a good excuse to then tie back to something in the email that you think is relevant to the conversation and go, hey, we did this for Shopify. I would imagine it's a similar problem in your organization. Would you be interested in hearing how we help solve that? And then I know it's always tricky, but it's almost like giving that pause and letting them fill the space. I know we want to often keep talking, but then like that prompt and almost like the bit of that awkward tension for them to go, yeah, actually it would, right? But I think it's human nature to just keep talking.
Yeah.
I love that, Frank. I think you could even go into an open-ended question there after you talked about what you did for Shopify. Like, how are you solving for that? Something like that to get their feedback, and then go into, okay, like, and then what happened? Is it working? And do a little bit of a pain funnel.
Yeah. Right. So, do you have this problem? Yes. How are you solving it? It's not working well. Would you be interested in hearing more? Right. So you keep going with the open-ended questions until eventually you've led them to, oh, well, it sounds like you'd like a meeting
Yeah.
and not just an email.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
with Adam, I did a pain funnel until I found the actual problem, which was he put a deal desk in place, which that's the actual issue. And if we solve for that, then
Yeah.
we can help him.
But I guess, Kieran, is there something that, like, if you had a perfect world, if they would admit something on a call, you could be like, oh yes, like I've got them now. Like, I mean, that sounds
Yeah,
terrible, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I that's what I'm trying to think about. I think I'm almost like I'm trying to restructure what I want to say. I really like that idea of trying to pull them out, like what their pain point is and how I can, provide a solution to them to solve it. Because other than that, like if there's no pain, like, if I don't even know if I'm just saying random things that doesn't resonate, like of course they're not going to book a meeting. Sending email is the best way to just to get rid of me off the phone, right? So I think trying to uncover, like in a cold call, like, what's important to them, and that's maybe where I kind of need help and how to like discover that and pull that out, like what to say.
Go ahead, John.
I think most of these Fortune 1000 companies have diversity and inclusion initiatives that are probably pretty public. And you can say, how are you tracking towards that? We see you have aggressive goals and we really like that. How are you tracking towards that? And I liked Adam's also about like, the open, what we've seen this coordinator role open for, 3 months or whatever, like, it seems like it's not going that fast, but try and call them out on, public statements that they've made about, getting these numbers up and see if they're tracking to reach those public statements. And then, that's a problem. Oh, we have this initiative to get there by 2023 and, we're not really on pace to get there or something. And then you could, drill in. And you said you go with 3 things. I mean, 3, I think is a lot just because people are pretty simple and maybe even if there's 2 of those 3 that you could guess are most likely and be like, hey, most people I talk to, they either tell me, unconscious bias is a problem or the pool is too small or, or either those things, something that you've been thinking about. And just make it really simple. And then, you can kind of get to the pain on one of those 2 or something, but just make it as simple as possible. And you ask, should I ask the question? The answer is almost always yes. Like the less that you can talk and the more that you can get them talking, the better your call is always going to go. So, and if you say, oh, I can't figure out which pain it is, like, hey, is it any of these things relatable to you? And just put it on them. And most people will tell you what you want to know. And you're really good with the interaction and the way that you really listen actively and say your next thing based on what they've answered. So just let them say it and ask whatever question you really want to know. Kind of like what Francois said, like whatever the ideal thing is, if they're admitting to the problem or whatever. I don't know if your goal is to get a meeting set every single time on one of these calls, or sometimes it might just be the goal could be admit that they do have a problem or that you should contact them within a month or something like that. I don't know what outcome you're looking for every single time, but you can almost never go wrong by asking too many questions if they're engaged in the conversation.
Back to my earlier question, like, Kieran, is there like, again, an indicator, and I know you're kind of looking for it, and I'm just trying to think in my day job, like that you go, okay, yeah, this is a perfect fit because they just don't have this. So do they often kind of use, we're looking at doing that in our systems, or we have a person doing that, and that's kind of a trigger for you to go, yeah, you have a person doing this, like that is your problem right there. Like we have a system, or you have your HR system and you can kind of fire back and go, hey, we know, Shopify, IBM, all these folks had like super high-end HRIS systems, but they just couldn't address this specific problem. And we bolt into that. Like, do they typically try and use those as excuses? Like, oh, somebody's looking after that, or we have a tool for that, but you in deep down know you probably don't.
Yeah. So, one of the objections that, that we do get a lot is of course, Fortune 1000, they have diversity initiatives and plans in place. And I always say, we're not here to replace any of the work that you're doing. We're actually here to align with your goals and to help improve your diversity, from the top of the funnel. And that's where Knockri would work in with your I guess your strategy to be able to tick all those boxes right at the beginning of the hiring process. And then I usually like to ask, like, well, what does your hiring process look like today? And they would say, will we have a recruiter or a screener that would kind of screen through the resumes and kind of look through, the job? And I said, yeah. So like what we're able to do is we can turn weeks into days for your screening process. And it's far more robust too, instead of just having like a binary, like yes, no, they answer these questions and it gives it a much more like colorful answer of what the candidate would be like, as opposed to just having someone look at, you know, the school they went to, or you know, their previous job for like, you know, performance or anything like that. So we do a lot of things that, yeah, it's more, I would say more robust as opposed to what most companies do. And then that's where they're like, okay, yeah, like interesting, send me some information, you know, like I feel like I'm not maybe like pushing them a little bit harder to get it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm wondering if I could flip it around. I'll call you. You can be at Acme. Acme's always
Yeah.
a favorite. Making
Sure.
dynamite.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Very diverse. And and then I'll try and take down the pain funnel. So you let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All
Hi,
right.
this is Kieran.
Hey, Kieran. I see you guys just had a big press release about trying to increase your diversity in hiring. Wondering if you'd give me 30 seconds to let you know how we were helping Shopify and IBM.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. What are you looking for?
I mean, I'm sure you guys have like really, really high-end HRIS systems and people looking at this, but you know, do you guys actually, you know, have a process or a system in place right now to, you know, use unconscious bias to make sure you're finding the best talent?
Yeah, you know, with our diversity, our D&I team, we have some, like, training that goes on for our recruiters to help with that when they're throughout the recruitment process. So you know, we like to make sure our recruitment and our diversity teams are aligned when we're you know, evaluating candidates and, you know, whether it's their resume. So I think we're good for that.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like you guys are putting a lot of effort into the training of the staff, which is fantastic. But you know, we plug right into like applicant tracking systems and use, you know, automated intelligence that will look after, you know, doing the screening and bring this without, you know, human error. And so, you know, that's I think one of the secret sauces we have, and unfortunately, you know, humans are prone to errors and having a bias. So would it be a fair statement that you guys do have a system, like a technology platform in place doing that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not actually a technological solution by any means. It's more of, we do training and then our recruiters go out and evaluate candidates. So no, we don't have a tool in place actually.
Yeah. So you would say it is fair that there's potential for, you know, human error there today.
Yes.
And have you guys looked at any tools that would systemize or automate that just to eliminate any of the conscious bias?
No, like just more or less more in training from our diversity team.
Yeah. And do you think there's any reason there's any resistance to that?
Well, you know, we like to keep, you know, obviously we want to have that personal aspect with our recruiters to engage with candidates. We like to have that human, you know, reaching out and discussing with them at first, and then kind of going from there. So we like to have that exactly that human aspect.
Okay, I'll pause there because you were doing a way tougher job than Adam or Patrick were. You were a real caller, like you were tough. But I'd be curious too, at like that stage, if we flipped it and you were calling yourself there, like is there not a case study that you would flip them, but is there like an example there where you could go, well, actually, you know, that was one of the exact pieces of feedback we kept getting from Shopify or Novartis, that, you know, they have teams, they're investing, but they're still falling short in this specific area. So you weren't giving me, like, you just still weren't giving me that one space to kind of go, yeah, and good on you, right? Because
that's actually a call that I had. I had a call like that earlier today, actually, where the guy's like, well, we have this diversity team, you know, we do all this, but I don't really see the pain in bringing on a new solution. And, you know, just really, there's no appetite to really look at this. And I was like, okay, like, I see that. Like, well, like, how often do you know, and I was trying to spin it like, well, you're going to have to consistently, with our solution, once it's in place, there's no, you know, further really, like, the training really isn't as much, right? Like, it's, you know, recruiters going to come in and out, you have to retrain them. And once we have the solution in place, like, it's going to be the same as it was yesterday, 365. You know, they don't have a bad day. It doesn't have, you know, their car didn't break down on the way to work. So they're pissed off and they have to meet with a candidate and they're already cheat. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like, so I always try and kind of spin it that way of, you know, like the training aspect and how it'll be there. Like, you know, we can take the best, you know, recruiter that you have and basically simulate that throughout the rest of your hiring process.
Patrick, you look like you're ready to.
This might be a hot take, but if somebody doesn't have a problem you solve, probably don't want to book them. Like that's my point of view. It's like if that's their point of view today, it doesn't mean it will even be next week their point of view. You might want to talk to them again when they're more open to it, or maybe they experienced it, because it's not always the thing that they actually need. But something I'd also suggest is the idea of bottoms up prospecting before you hit someone like that. I have a sequence that goes out to people that are like in the entry level, where it's like, who do I talk to about this problem, and what tech are you using, and what potential problems are there within that tech? And then I'll send it out to every entry level person. And usually if you send out to like 20 people, you'll get like 4 or 5 responses. Here are the issues I'm having with it. And then you could take it to like the C level. Like, hey, I talked to some of your people. I'm not going to name them, but they said this, and this were issues with the tech. Like, how are you planning to solve for that in 2022? So that really way they can't be like, oh, I don't have that problem. It's like, yes, you do. I talked to you.
I like that. But to your earlier point, Patrick, like, I was wanting to scream like, no, you can't solve this with humans. Humans are your weakest link. We have the magic bullet. But to Patrick's point, if that person there just doesn't see that, like you said, like maybe you just can't convince them. Like maybe in 6 months they can, or maybe they have to have a catastrophic internal failure. Like,
in that moment, you're like, I'll call you again in 2 weeks. Like, we'll talk again.
With that situation, like what I've also done, and maybe what's worked, is that's where I try and flip like the value. Like, well, we have case studies of improving metrics like time to fill and cost to fill. Like, we know how much it costs to have an open position. This is our proven track record of being able to fill these seats and get the best candidates, and save your recruiters don't have to do all these other screenings and things like that, when we can do a lot of that for you. So I always just try and say, well, what about, how long does it take that position to fill? Like, I can share some, the metrics on how we're improving the efficiencies. So I might try and pivot. I don't know if that's what some of you guys would do.
On this topic, because this brings back that earlier point of just seeing the age of some of their open recs from a place like LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever. So if you know how many positions that are X age, and you have data on the cost of that, could you tell them today, it looks like this is costing you X amount of money per month? Like, you have this objective number of their pain in dollars that you can start the conversation off with. If you know that to be true, I think that's a powerful way in. If it can scale. If getting that number can scale.
One thing I like to do too, especially if they've got a lot of public information, like being publicly traded, like let's say their board said, hey, our diversity inclusion like metrics are way in the wrong direction. And that was from like their Q3 earnings report, and somebody brought that up and said, hey, by Q1 we want like the needle to move here. You can go back and you'd be like, how are you doing on that? They're like, it's still not working. I'm like, well, I'll call you back in 2 weeks when you solved it. And they won't. And then you have like a good in again to kind of go, hey, you still have that problem that they're telling you they're solving, but they probably won't solve in 2 weeks. So it gives you a good reason to call back and be like, hey, we helped X company, move the needle from X to Y in this many days.
Yeah, well, I know we're kind of getting close on time, but here, I'd like to share my screen and kind of show you the white page that we have. I wish we could actually talk about this more, but I don't know. I think you guys, it's a hard stop.
Should come back.
That's what. No, honestly, this has been. I'll just say it while I'm here. Like, this has been so helpful. I almost want to come and connect with you guys in like a month or two, because I've got a lot of great feedback, and almost say, like, hey, I've included this. Like, this has been awesome.
We're down. It's like The Bachelorette. You come back like 6 months later.
You know what I mean? Like, no, like I'm gonna need this recording, because there's a lot of things you guys have said that I can stop and pause. So,
I just got to point out really quick, what he just did was at the end of the meeting, he booked the next meeting. Like, let's keep doing that.
Nice. You should be able to share your screen if you're waiting for me. I think you've got access.
Yeah. How do I? Is it in the top?
Oh, right? At the bottom, the green share screen, and then you pick the screen.
Perfect. So yeah, this is the. If you guys can see that, this is what our one pager with IBM looks like, and how we, it identifies the challenge.
So time, 6 months, count. So like I'm scanning for kind of those quick nuggets of numbers that I can throw at someone on a call that's the same size, right? Because somebody that's IBM size, I want to use similar metrics, but somebody who's I don't know, a quarter of their size, I want different metrics.
Yeah.
And so what's on page 2, because I'm looking for kind of those tactical, like percentages are interesting. I mean, you've got automating that in that sentence there. So again, to me, it's if they keep saying, well, we got people, it's like, yeah, but that's your problem. People are great, but they're humans. They make errors.
Yeah. And then this was the kind of the solution.
Kieran, one thing I was thinking is if you say, you're trying to not replace what they're doing now, but make it better or augment it or whatever, one thing that you could use is, we saw that you had diversity and initiatives on your quarterly report. Do you think that's going to be on your quarterly report a year from now or 2 years from now or something like that? And basically get them to say, hey, this is something that we're not solving that this year. We need as many things that we can to improve this. And I doubt anyone's going to say like, hey, that's not going to be there next year or something like that. Or yeah, we're going to be, where we want to be by then or something. And that kind of opens up a Pandora's box of what you can talk about.
And do you guys have and I know this is a really hot topic, but like a pilot, because they might be like, oh, this sounds really complicated, but is there like, hey, we can do a pilot or a proof of concept to show you how we do this?
Yeah, I think, kind of, it usually goes to the first meeting and they always usually want to see the demo and how it works from our end and then from the candidate's end. And usually kind of that's where it gets more custom for the proof of concept moving forward. And then they always want to meet with our, the science team and, how it's built and things like that. So, yeah, this is like our 1-page, and then we have another one, just a general 1-pager as well.
And this is included in your email cadence usually?
Yeah. So when they ask, I always like to share how we've helped IBM, because that's our biggest client and most well known. So I always like to include that. And then we have this other 1-pager here that I can just pop open. Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
So this is really targeting, diversity and the benefits of diversity through stronger retention and other kind of benefits like that.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so we're coming up for time, but definitely, I know I'm also open, and I don't want to speak for everyone else, but even one-on-one, right? So sometimes it's great just to follow up with someone and shoot them a video, hey, here's, or even I'm happy to carve out half an hour to do another cold call run. But I appreciate you putting yourself out here, Kieran, and presenting, getting feedback from everybody here. But I know I can speak from everybody here. We're happy to follow up with you and give you feedback, and we're here to try and help you get better. And Jon, Patrick, Adam, thanks for carving out an hour to give back and help Kieran out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm gonna go back to this call. You guys gave me a lot of Patrick, Jon, Adam, and Frank. Thanks for everything. Yeah, I definitely want to, hopefully find a time to reconnect, because I'll go back and, digest everything. And I really it sounds like I really need to be a lot more, really specific on the companies, really take a look at their pages and really find out, nuggets that they're trying to, Fortune 1000 companies, you guys said, will have those metrics and what they want to kind of achieve in the next 12 months through a diversity perspective, and really pull on those. And, Patrick, you said, hey, which one of these things is relevant, how and can we talk about that? I'm not, that's a good point, because I'm not doing that. I'm just basically spraying our whole value prop at you guys, and I'm hoping something sticks. So I should be the one that makes that happen. So thanks a lot for that. A lot of good information here.
You bet, man. All right, folks.
Of course,
appreciate everybody making time. Have a fantastic weekend, and see you on the other side.
It was awesome.
See you
Thanks,
on the other
Kieran.
side, y'all. Bye, Jon.